Hey guys, welcome to episode number 7 of the ranking of my favorite bands, my favorite studio albums from my least favorite to my favorite. This is a really easy one today. This is a band that was only together for about 2 years and 8 months total. By all standards, like considered the first supergroup ever, and that would be Cream. They were together from 66 to 68, which, comprised of Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton, of course, everybody knows who he is. Came from the Yardbirds, and John Mayall was actually playing with John Mayall, which is one of my favorite Eric Clapton albums, by the way, outside of Cream, the Beano album, and Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, which they played now as Corner Blues Incorporated and the Graham Bond Organization. And from everything I've read and understand, they definitely had a love-hate relationship, and that's one of the many reasons why the band did not stay together very long. But, I'm going to go from my least favorite to my favorite. Start off with this, which is an EP. I'm going to include Goodbye. The band had already broke up at this point, but half of it's live, another half studio. They all had a track each. I'm So Glad, Politician, Sitting on Top of the World, and Badge is probably the best known song on here as far as a new song, which George Harrison co-wrote, and doing that scrapyard thing and What a Bring Down. But that's number 4. Number 3. First studio album they released is Fresh Cream. Great album. I think this came out in '66. A lot of just strong songs on here. With all their stuff to me is strong. But I Feel Free, NSU. Just Spoonful's a great song. Rollin' and Tumblin'. A lot of old blues standards on here. But number 3 would be Fresh Cream for me. Number 2, number 1. My number 1's my number 1, but a lot of people would have this as their number 1. This is the band, the album that actually put them on the map, and that would be Disraeli Gears. It's got Sunshine of Your Love, of course, which, that's been played into the ground, but it's a great song. Strange Brew, Tales of Brave Ulysses, Labra, We're Going Wrong's a great song. The whole album's great, but number 2 for me is Disraeli Gears. And number 1 for me is going to be Wheels of Fire. You can see that with a glare here, but just a fantastic album. To me, my favorite. I know half of this album is live, but the other half is studio recordings as well. But White Room, everybody's heard that song, Sitting on Top of the World. As you said, Press Rat Nord has a crazy Ginger Baker song, but those were the days. Born Under a Bad Sign, it's an old blues song they redid. It was just killer. Deserted Cities of the Heart is one of my favorite Jack Bruce songs. But let me go back from my favorite to my least favorite again. So number 1, Wheels of Fire. Number 2, Disraeli Gears. Number 3, Fresh Cream. And number 4 is Goodbye. It's a shame this band, I just wish that they would have put out a little more product when they were together, because they were so, to me, damn good. That not only they didn't release a bad album, they never released a bad song to me. I think everything they did was incredible. And they got back together in 2005 and just did this one album here when Ginger and Jack were still alive, which is at the Royal Albert Hall, and they actually played some dates in New York. And of course, Jack and Ginger are notorious. They had a love-hate relationship. They hated each other. But I think that's part of the reason why the band was so good, is because the infighting in the band, they were always trying to outdo the other. So you had multiple just number 10 bass, full throttle bass, guitar, and drums. And a lot of people consider this the first heavy metal band. I don't agree with that. I would say Black Sabbath would be, in my opinion, the first heavy metal band. But, I was going to talk, since that's, they got such a brief catalog. I was going to talk about a couple of other albums here, too. Of course, Eric Clapton had the very much more successful solo career, and I'm just not a big fan of a lot of Clapton stuff. I'm sorry. Aside from this, after Cream split up, they got with Steve Winwood, and I think it's Rick Gretsch from a band called The Family. And of course, Steve Winwood was in the band Traffic, and Eric and Ginger. There's another very, very short-lived project called Blind Faith. What a weird album cover, but good album. Came out right after Cream. Different album worth checking out. And, Jack Bruce went on his own and did this album, which is my favorite Jack Bruce solo album, Songs for a Tailor. definitely an album worth checking out. I mean, really good, solid songs on here. You know, Eric Clapton, I love Eric Clapton, but, you know, just especially stuff in the 80s and 90s is so commercial. That's just my opinion. He, you know, obviously he's made a great career for himself, but aside from some of his first solo album I thought was really good. Definitely love this album. From the Cradle. I mean, just old blues standards, and that's where he's, you know, that's his heart and soul is in the blues, man. I mean, that's just killer. Of course, I mean, the Beano album that came out after he left the Yardbirds right before he formed Cream with Ginger and Jack. I mean, it's called the Beano because of him reading the Beano newspaper, but man, this is my favorite John Mayall album. And the one he did, Hard Road, with Peter Green, of course, from Fleetwood Mac. That's another great album as well. But, I mean, you know, as far as Ginger and Jack, I mean, Ginger Baker, you know, he released a lot of stuff too. Ginger Baker's Air Force, and then he, oh gosh, he's done several other things. A lot of weird, you know, stuff he did in Africa. Had his own recording studio where Paul McCartney recorded Band on the Run. But Baker Gurvitz Army, I mean, it's got all 3 albums, and they were together about as long as Cream, about 2 years, where he did an album with the Gurvitz brothers. Highly underrated. I don't understand for the life of me why this didn't catch ground and was more commercially successful, because all 3 of these albums here are just really, really good. I mean, I won't pull all the albums out, but I mean, they were together a little over 2 years as well, just like Cream, but I mean, with the Gurvitz brothers. But I mean, just a great album. And fortunately, I didn't know a whole lot about this band. I knew who they were, but I started listening to them a few years ago, and man, this is great stuff right here. Baker Gurvitz Army. I mean, and Jack Bruce. And I was talking about his first album, Songs for Taylor, but he did form this, another short-lived band. From what I've heard, Jack and Ginger are both very difficult to work with, and but I mean, Wes, Bruce, and Lang. I mean, which is, you know, Leslie West and Corky Lang from the band Mountain, who to me were a cheaper version of Cream. I mean, Felix Pappalardi, who worked with Cream, did some stuff with the Disraeli Gears and the Goodbye album. He formed Mountain with Leslie West and Corky Lang on drums, and this is just great stuff here. And after Mountain split after a time, they formed this, and just this album is killer. Great album. Why don't you? I mean, not a bad song on this album. I like this album too. I mean, it is called, what is it? What is the name of this album? Whatever Turns You On. Great album. Hard to find, by the way, too, but just great stuff. Live album here too. And by the time this album came out, they'd already broken up. It's a shame, but from what I read and understand, that drugs were really a lot of the issue with this. Why they didn't stay together longer, right? But no one ever talks about it. To me, this is the best stuff here. And then Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, as much as they came to stand each other, do an album with Gary Moore, BBM. Great album. I mean, there's some great songs on here to me. You know, I think, again, the thing that was so interesting to me with Jack and Ginger, even when Eric was in the fold with them, they're always trying to outdo the other one. Maybe that's what, to me, made the band so good. But, I mean, definitely a good album worth checking out as well. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen this documentary, but Beware of Mr. Baker. I think you can watch this on YouTube. Well, this guy is, you know, to me, other than maybe John Bonham, Dave Lombardo, I mean, he's probably my favorite drummer of all time. I mean, but what an interesting cat. I mean, without giving too much away here, you got to see this documentary. There's a good one on Jack, too, The Man Behind the Bass, and a good one that Scorsese did on Clapton. But, man, this is amazing right here. I mean, he actually breaks the guy's nose. He's doing a documentary on him. He goes to South Africa to find him and talks about his whole career. But, man, this is definitely something you got to watch for a documentary. This is just a wacky stuff here. But, I mean, I've seen this. This is probably my favorite documentary ever made on any band ever. It's just so fascinating to me and just crazy. But, yeah, guys, if you like what you see here, just hit the like and subscribe button. I just want to do a pretty easy one today. But thanks for checking it out. And if you like it, like and subscribe. And talk to you guys soon. Later. See ya.